Good afternoon. We'll get underway. Let me give you a couple of updates on some things as we get started, and I'll close with an invitation, perhaps a plea. Update. So looking at our operating results through January 31, we're doing well compared to budget. Overall revenues are looking okay. Expenses are looking good. We don't have as big a favorable variance as we've had each of the last couple of years. We're probably budgeting a little better, but we're doing fine. And looking across the organization, we're experiencing a little more softness in attendance this year. Although I've got to say, I've had several people, guests, visitors, members who came to see the Prohibition exhibit this past weekend who said it was packed. And they couldn't park in the parking lot, and it was just really busy. So maybe we're experiencing a little bit of that, my God, I got to go now before it leaves happening. Membership-wise, is Rhonda here? Can I say anything I want? All right, I love it. You may know that we recently did a Groupon offer. And I think we decided we would cap it at like 3,500, but we had 3,300 responses on the Groupon, and that's really good. We can't just now assume that we've got ad infinitum an additional 3,300 members, because about 80% of those will redeem. They've already paid, but 80% will redeem, and the renewal rate on Groupon is significantly less. But even if you do that math, it's a really great boost for us. And just think, more than 3,000 people out there read it and decided this was something they wanted to do. So that's really good. Our membership is going well, and we just looked at the development results year to date with the development committee this morning, and they're on budget for the year too. And we had actually ramped that budget up a little bit. So generally good news. Thank you all for all your great work, and we're in a good place at this point, about 3/4 of the way through the year. The invitation. We still need some more History Day judges, especially on these 2 days, March 22 and March 25. So if you could judge History Day on one of those days, March 22 or March 25, we could really use you. And as you know, that we consider that a day of work. Let me just ask, how many of you have been History Day judges before? Okay. I have judged a lot, and I've got to say, it's one of the most fun things you get to do in this field. And if you haven't done it yet, March 22 or March 25 will be a good time to do it for the first time. So, Wendy, how do they sign up?
Just go online to the History Day page. There's a Fletcher announcement, and the link is right there. Click on it. Signing up is easy.
How many do you need?
Sarah, Tim, there. We need a lot. Part of the issue is that websites are being judged in person now, so that's increased the total number of judges that they need, particularly the Minneapolis event on March 22nd.
Great. Help us out. Check your calendars and see if you can do it. Now, we've got a great lineup for this morning, some really interesting things going on. First, we'll hear from Richard Josie about some of the things happening at historic sites. And then Richard will yield the floor to Molly, who's going to talk about MNopedia. And then Karen Kendall will come up to talk a little bit about something that we're participating in called Service Enterprise that has to do with ramping up our volunteer effort. So without further ado, Richard, let me turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thought I was here by myself. So my boss, John Crippen reminded me before we came downstairs that some of y'all might not know who I am. So if you don't, I'm Richard Josie, manager of programs, overseeing a lot of the programming that's happening at historic sites, as well as some of the operational stuff as well. With that being said, some of y'all probably don't know me because I haven't been here as long as some of you all have. I came in September of 2012 and arrived here. One of the first things that I found that was interesting to me as we were making some of our site visits, matter of fact, it was before we made our site visits when I actually got my, when I researched y'all, when I was filling out my application. And I knew Steve was here, and I kind of knew Steve, back in the days. And I looked at you all's mission statement, using the power of history to transform lives. And that was pretty interesting to me, especially as I came out here and I began to ask people questions as to, okay, what does transformation mean? And at one of our very first site managers meetings, I learned very quickly that everybody doesn't define transformation in the same way. For me, I understood it a certain way, and I think I would sum it up in the fact that a transformational experience takes your message and actually affects the people that's receiving that message in a way that engages their senses, that personally gets them involved, creates memories, and makes a lasting impact. For me, that's what I'm thinking about when I think of when someone comes to a historic site. What does it mean? How do we have them leave? How do we create memories? And how do we not only have them leave with those memories, but how do we get them back? Because at the same time, we started to hear about, at Fort Snelling and many other sites that repeat visitation doesn't seem like it's too high. I ask many people that I meet even to this day, when was the last time you've been to the Lindbergh House? When was the last time you've been to any of these sort of sites? And well, we went in the 5th grade, but I had no need in going back since then. So then I started thinking and started looking at some of the very interesting stories of the people and the places and the events that surround these sites, and started to realize that maybe we need to make a shift from trying to tell a macro story. For example, at Fort Snelling, maybe we try and do too much in trying to tell all 200 years in the 2-hour time frame that the guests are there. That there's too deep of amount of information that we can really get to really personalize your experience for you. Maybe it's in our best interest to explore what's happening in 1837 and to start looking at that as to how does that compare to what's happening in 2014. Maybe we have to start looking at 1863 and what's happening there, and how does that connect with what you all are dealing with here and now. But there was another thing about it, though, too, because as I begin to look at the exhibits that take place here at the History Center, matter of fact, I had a friend of mine, Jenny. She came to the History Center 2 weeks ago, and she came and saw the Prohibition exhibit. And she had a grand time. She enjoyed it. She took pictures, put them on Facebook. Everybody liked it, had a great time with it. And she called me last night, and she said, hey, how come you didn't tell me that the Prohibition exhibit was going away? So, well, you didn't ask. And she noted to me when it was going away. Matter of fact, I wasn't even quite aware that it was leaving when it was, but she was saddened. But what it caused her to do was it caused her to set up her father's trip. Father's birthday's coming up. So she's bringing the father and all the family. It's about 16 of them that's coming here in the next, matter of fact, it might be this weekend, to come here and see the Prohibition exhibit. Why? Because it's going away. There's a sense of urgency that's associated with it. I want that sense of urgency at our historic sites. So what we're talking about doing is we are going to take our historic site experiences. We're going to redefine them. We're going to reshape them. We're going to look at the stories of these people, of these events, and connect that with this idea of what we're talking about here in terms of transformation. And we're going to start creating guided and unguided experiences. We're going to start hooking up even more so with Dan Spock and the exhibits team and understanding how do those experiences and the changes that we want to make there connect with exhibits that we want to reposition and such at these sites. that we want to recreate these site experiences so that next time I stand before you all and I say, okay, we got some transformational experiences, I can now put a document on this table right here and I can read to you all not just my interpretation of what I think people are going to take away, but I can tell you all what people are actually saying for themselves. With that being said, this summer, we're going to start off, notice I said start, meaning there's more to come. But this summer, we're going to start with 3 new experiences at the Mille Lacs Indian Museum, at the Charles A. Lindbergh Historic Site, and at Historic Fort Snelling. Each one is different than the other. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time telling y'all exactly what those experiences are, because I want to see how many of you all we can get out there to come and see these experiences. Because the one thing that I know for sure is that marketing isn't just, Lori and Angela and Jessica and those folks up there, but all y'all go to one of these grocery stores and all of y'all is talking to this person and talking to that person. I want to see how we can get you all out there so you all can go through these experiences and how you all can be our commercials when y'all go do y'all's daily tasks. Is that 10 minutes? Are there any questions? Is there anything that I know I've talked to several people about these sorts of things that we have going on, and I don't want to rehash some old stuff, but just really got to get you all excited in the fact that we have some things that's about to happen in these historic sites. Again, at these 3 sites particular that is coming up in this summer, and we got some more coming up in the fall. Don't be shy, just go on and ask. Sure.
Will you give us at least a little bit more detail about the 3 programs?
Okay, so a little bit more detail about the 3 programs. So at Historic Fort Snelling, we're going to explore 1837 and this time frame when these treaties are being established in this area, and the idea of how is that viewed from African-American perspectives, how is that viewed from female particular perspectives, how is that viewed from Dakota or Ojibwe or English officers. We're going to look at that whole time frame and those events as they're emerging leading up to the 37 time frame, and why is that time frame so important, and really look at conflicting points of views. The Mille Lacs Indian Museum, that experience is really going to be geared around who are the Ojibwe? Where did they come from? What is it that they brought with them? And that type of dialogue-based program will take place in connection with the 4 Seasons, experience that takes there. And Charles A. Lindbergh site, we're just going to really reground ourselves even more so in terms of what does boyhood mean in Little Falls for a man like that. Looking even more so at the connections between how his ingenuity, his spirit, his innovative spirit early on as a child connects to what it is that we know him of. We're also looking at how can we kind of reposition our language and kind of open up people to understand even more so just when you talk about the Lindbergh site on a whole, that it's not just, another story about how great some guy was, but we really want to explore the very human element of who he was. Charles Lindbergh's life wasn't, when you look at the whole gamut of it, he has some things that, some of us might be real critical of, but if we're honest about what type of man he was and understand that being human means that you're inherent with flaws, then accept that for what it is and use that as a learning experience as we move on in our regular lives. Was that good enough? Anything else? Well, with that being said, I look forward to seeing each one of you all out there, seeing some of these experiences. Matter of fact, I think I know many of y'all. I'm taking a mental record right now because I might just send you all a personal email directly. Because what we really want to do is we're starting this off with, sort of a vision that works in the minds of 2 or 3 people, but we really want to get some input from others within the institution as to, okay, what are you saying? What do you feel? Do you feel like you can sell us when you go out? Everything ain't for everybody. My friends in marketing keeps reminding me of that. And even when we say, family is different for everybody, whether you're dealing with 5-year-olds or you're dealing with 14-year-olds. We're working through all that business now, but hope to see you all out there. If you see me in the hallway, and give me your feedback. Let me know what you're thinking. Rachel Abbott, sitting up here behind the trio here. She's working with me, directly on this project as well. So, we're pretty excited. We're pretty jazzed up on how we can, really kind of reconnect with the people and really kind of get some different perspectives, some different voices, and get some attraction from a different type of audience, many of whom aren't coming to see us now. Thank you much.
All right. Hello. This is Team MNopedia. I'm Molly Huber. I'm editor and project manager of MNopedia, our online encyclopedia of Minnesota. This is Lizzie Ehrenholt, our associate editor, and Peter DiCarlo, our editorial assistant. And we are going to be talking to you today about what's new with MNopedia. So, but first, we're starting with MNopedia trivia. Woohoo! So, who can tell me, and I just want you to shout out, I'm not going to deal with the microphone, because I'll give you the answer on the PowerPoint. Fillmore, yes, yay, Millard Fillmore, who was President of the United States from 1850 to 1853, so this was just after he finished his presidency. He came out to Minnesota Territory as part of the Rock Island excursion, which was organized, had lots of bigwigs on it to encourage Eastern investment in the territory. Which is the following is a ghost town of Carver County? What? San Francisco! It was named in honor of the California city by its founder, William Foster, and it was actually even briefly the county seat, but then it eventually declined and was gone by 1869. More contemporary question? Which of these well-known acts played at Parade Stadium in the 1970s when they used to host big rock concerts? Anyone? You are right. Were any of you there? Fleetwood Mac played at Parade Stadium in June 1976. The last concert there was Simon and Garfunkel in the early 80s. Last big name concert. So MNopedia has wonderful gems like that. That's just a very small example of some of the wonderful things you'd find there. All of those facts were in MNopedia. We've been growing since our launch in August of 2011. We now average about 2,750 visitors a week, which is actually up since I made an SLT presentation a few weeks ago, but we've been trending upwards this past month. That's over 1,000 visitors more than this time last year and more than 500 more visitors per week than even just this past fall. So we're enjoying having so many people coming to visit us. We've had over 150,000 visits since launch, total. We, as of today, have published 300 articles. Hooray! Woohoo! Which is 10 times what we started with 2.5 years ago. So we're growing. We have over 47 authors, including some of your coworkers, such as Hamp Smith and Lee Radzak, and we have some other staff members who are in the editorial and writing process. So I encourage all of you to submit things if there's things you're knowledgeable about or are interested in learning more about. We have, actually, as of today, 671 Twitter followers. It was 668 yesterday. We still are holding at 592 Facebook followers. And through our partnership with MinPost last year, they actually continue to republish original MNopedia articles every Tuesday. I'll talk more about that in a minute. They also, one of the articles we commissioned from them on the Children's Blizzard, last year we commissioned it, so it was published over a year ago, but with all the bad weather we've had this winter, it was their most read article across the entire site for the week of January 6th, the MNopedia commissioned article, and it got 11,500 hits in just 4 days. And they average, many, many thousands of visitors. I don't have that figure with me, but it's great to increase our visibility and the visibility of the content we're creating. We have many collaborations with other staff members. And first, I have to give a heartfelt thanks to the ET team of Morgan Largent, Cassie Potter, who I know is at Curling Nationals this week, so she can't be here. But Jim Oakley, the three of them have been with MNopedia since the beginning, and they've done all of the work constructing it. They continually work with us regularly to tweak it, make it better, and we couldn't do this without them. So big thanks to them. We've also worked with other departments on collaborative efforts. We were a part of the update to the Governors and First Ladies website as part of a team from Library and Collections. I want it written down, so I want to make sure I get everyone's name. It also included Linda Cameron from the State Capitol, Jillian Odland, Jane Wong, Tracy Baker, Karen Lovas, and Jenny McElroy. And so we helped them by commissioning new content that then appears jointly on both of our sites. And that was a great, we were pleased to do that and happy to do similar things in the future if it comes up. We've also linked to the state capitol. We provide them with direct links of MNopedia articles that are relevant to them, and that's updated regularly. We do the same with Fort Snelling, and so then their pages link directly back to MNopedia, and we can amplify each other's historical content that way. We also have been in conversation with the LibGuides group as that has come online, and we link to them and they link to us, again, amplifying the impact of what we can do and driving visitors to and from each other and providing a more rich historical resource for our users. One of our more fruitful recent collaborations has been with SHPO. Peter has been working, when he has a few free minutes, to repurpose National Register nomination files, which are fully available online. But what he does is that he goes through them and he boils them down into a MNopedia article, and then we republish them on our site. So they're even more accessible than someone who can, and then he credits back the file so they can link to the full file if they want, or just read the shorter version. And actually now we've had 2 of those articles picked up by MinPost in their Tuesday republishing. So that's, again, getting out to a much broader audience than it would be otherwise. And Lizzie has been working with the team to provide primary resource packets, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about that.
Thanks, Molly. Good afternoon, everybody. This fall, I was invited to act as an advisor on a project that's based in the education department. The other project team members are Shauna Crossan, Jessica Ellison, and Heidi Klumpkin. The goal of this project is to develop a set of tools and training materials for teachers to encourage them to use primary sources in their classrooms. So one of the tools that we're working on now is a series of webinars that explain what primary sources are and come up with ideas for incorporating them into classroom activities. So teachers will be able to participate in these webinars live, but they can also access them after the sessions are over because they will all be recorded. The first webinar in the series is all about MNopedia. I'm the presenter, and I'll be giving participants a tour of the site and also explaining how it can be used as a kind of portal into primary sources. One of the strengths of MNopedia is that it doesn't just present article text. It also links to primary sources in various ways. So we did a kind of dress rehearsal of this first webinar last week, and we'll be recording the official session this month. So as Molly and Peter and I have been thinking strategically about the collaborations and partnerships that Molly and I just described, we've also been thinking very strategically about how to make ourselves more efficient in general. And one of the steps that we've taken to do this has been to write an editorial policy. Now, MNopedia staff have always followed an agreed upon set of guidelines for editing and publishing articles, but they've never really been codified and written down before. So this winter we decided to do exactly that. We conducted an environmental scan of our peers to see what kinds of things they were including in their editorial policies. We consulted our colleagues in the press. We went through various drafts to fine-tune our language, and what we ended up with is a document that lays out our expectations for authors, but also walks through the process of creating a MNopedia article really from start to finish. And we are going to be putting this policy on our website, so it'll be available for everyone who's interested to read. So in that way, it'll not only help us meet our goal of becoming more efficient as a team, but also allow us to be more transparent as a project. It won't be a mysterious process of, how does a MNopedia article get made? It'll be very clear and available to anyone who's interested. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to Peter, who's going to talk about another step we're taking to be more efficient, and that involves a content audit.
All right, hi everybody. I'm just going to talk really briefly about the content audit that we recently completed for MNopedia. And content audit, exactly what it sounds like, it's just an audit of all the content that you have. So in our case, it took the form of a web audit. And normally the product of an audit like this is a big scary Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of information on it. So that's what we have now. And The audit, it's really meant to answer three main questions. What content do you have? Where is that content? And what is the quality of that content? So as we started out, we decided we wanted to have a broad scope, broad in the sense that we wanted to audit every single article, all 300 of them, and continuing as we go forward, and detailed in that we wanted to make a record of all the metadata for each article and also all the information associated with the multimedia, which can be up to 15 images, audio files, and video files. So the audit was quantitative in that sense, but it was also qualitative. As we came together as an editorial team, we realized there were some standards that we wanted to change for citations, just some editorial standards as well, and we wanted to make sure that we align with those standards, with those of the press, and with any standards that the society has as a whole, like the U.S. Dakota 1862 style guide. So we standardized all of our content. Now for MNopedia, this content audit is very useful, and that it provides a base for us to start thinking more strategically about our content strategy as we go forward. It provides a permanent record of everything we have outside of the website. Now our website has an index, it's very useful, you can find things easily, but we wanted to make sure that as we do this work, we have a permanent backup system to know exactly what it is we have. And as we went through, we were able to realize where possibly some of our weaknesses are, where we might want to have more content, but also where our strengths are. And those strengths, as we realized them, we could put together a list of articles, and those led to some of the collaborations, for instance, with historic Fort Snelling. And very importantly, as we move forward, right now we're at 300 articles, as Molly mentioned, a great milestone. And between the three of us, we can pretty much remember what's on the site, but one day, we're an encyclopedia, remember, we're going to have 1,000, or we're going to have 5,000. And at that point, memory won't serve for knowing exactly what's on the site. So having that permanent record, allowing us to manage our content more effectively, is only going to become more important. So as we move forward, of course, this links into the content strategy that this society is moving forward with as a whole, and it'll allow us to move forward as the society comes up with new content initiatives. So with the editorial policy in place, as well as the content audit, we can move forward more strategically and more effectively and decide what content we want to add to the site. And Molly, I'll hand it back off to her, and she will tell you more about what's next for MNopedia.
Thank you. All right, so where to next? I really am hoping that you all will think of MNopedia as a tool to support strategic initiatives going forward. We've had we create new content regularly, and we want to do this in support and in concert with MNHS, excuse me. For example, we were part of the planning and structure of the Civil War topics page. We commissioned a number of new articles for that, which then appeared again both in our resource and on the site. And we are planning to do that for the Hmong topic page that is coming up, that is being designed right now and being thought about. We're also talking to Chris Taylor about partnering with him to reach new authors. We really want to, both with the Hmong initiative and moving forward, work more to get more diverse authors and more diverse content into MNopedia. We also want to hit some of the greatest hits. We want people to find what they think they should find in MNopedia, things like Dred Scott or Hubert H. Humphrey, or things that they are coming to MNopedia looking for. And we recently increased our search capabilities so that we can see what people are looking for and not finding. So that's also very helpful in our content planning going forward. We want to be a one-stop shop for everyone, and we want everyone in the state to be able to come to MNopedia and find themselves and their history there. So we want to work with all of you on more joint projects and on getting the word out about MNopedia and what a great resource it is and can be. So, like this boy on the bicycle, we've kind of just begun our journey, but we still have a long way to go, but we're really hoping that you will come along with us for the ride. So thank you for your time and your support, and I'd love to have any questions. There's one right next to you, Jackie. It's not working, I don't think. No? So your question, Leslie. Mm-hmm. Yep.
MNopedia,
Uh-huh.
is there a content strategy for relating in some way to Wikipedia?
Her first question was, how long do we have known funding? At this point, we are funded through the end of the next biennium, so July 30th of 2015. And at which time we will, apply for funding for the next biennium. We plan to be here for a while. Then in terms of Wikipedia, we have had a relationship with Wikipedia and Wikipedians from before we were launched, and a number of them, a number of editors locally and internationally are aware of us and have linked to us in articles. They've also repurposed articles from this site. That's part of why we licensed it all as Creative Commons, so that it could be very easily shared. Lizzie is an editor and has done a few things, but we're a very small staff, so we don't have a lot of time to actively work with that right now. But it is something that we have had a few meetups here. We have good relationships. Currently, it's kind of organic and less strategic, but that is something we'd like to do more with going forward. You can find us through Google searches really well, too. So that's the second part of your question, basically, is how would someone in Massachusetts, if they're looking for us, say if they're looking for something on the Wealthy Apple and you Google search it, it comes up right away. So we're usually pretty high.
But if they go to Wikipedia, then they won't find our article on there, for example.
If they go to Wikipedia, what, I'm sorry?
Sorry. If they go to Wikipedia, they won't find our article on there.
They will for Wealthy Apple, actually. But, but no, there is more linking between the two that could be done. That'd be great. We just need people to do it. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you so much for your time today.
Hi, I'm Karen Kendall, and I'm from the Volunteer Services Office, and I'm here today to talk to you about the strategic, let's try that again. We're here to talk about the Service Enterprise Initiative, and when I practiced saying that, I thought, oh, this is not going to go well, so I've already gotten that out of the way. Part of this began with our strategic plan. As part of the Lifelong Learning Initiative, we were charged with a lot of different activities as an organization, but one of those was increasing capacity to utilize volunteers here in the organization. So Wendy Jones and Maren Levad and Jean Nierenhausen and I met to figure out how are we going to do that, because that sounded pretty big. So the first thing we decided we needed to do was figure out where we were as an organization. So we took some staff assessments. We did some interviews. We did some surveying of staff to get a baseline. And we learned some things. We learned that folks are short on time. They're short on resources, space, computer equipment, those kinds of things. And they're short on some supervisory skills in some cases. Many staff had not worked with volunteers before, maybe hadn't supervised anyone before in their career. And because with the Lifelong Learning Group, we're targeting specifically the 50-plus crowd, those baby boomers, we discovered that some of our staff have some concerns about supervising somebody who might be the same age as their parent or grandparent, and how to converse across those generations and how to deal with those different human structures that we come into conflict with. So we identified some staff development needs, and focusing on that particular portion of this project, we started to explore some training options, what resources were out there. And much to our delight, at the same time, the Service Enterprise Initiative was being introduced here in the Twin Cities. Some effort to find organizations who were interested in that. So a bit about what a service enterprise is. Basically, it's an organization, a nonprofit, that really, really effectively engages volunteers in their strategic plan and their organizational activities. It's it's more than just engaging volunteers. It's doing it at a highly effective level. And those folks who achieve that level find that they're better serving their community. They're working with folks who are already enthusiastic about their organization, so their networking improves. They find that they're covering things much more efficiently, and they're oftentimes able to improve their revenues. So the TCC group, which is a national consulting group, has done the research working with the Points of Light Foundation to come up with the actual data behind this project. They've discovered that there's a pretty good return on investment when you really effectively engage in volunteers engagement, but that very few nonprofits across the country are working at that level of efficiency. So to try and improve the nonprofit world in general, the Points of Light Foundation, working with California volunteers who did some piloting on this, and with support of the Corporation for National and Community Service, they launched the Service Enterprise Initiative. So we took another step. We applied. It's a rather exclusive group. It's only being done in about 9 states, and only 6 organizations in Minnesota were going to be chosen for this. Locally, it's being conducted by Hands On Twin Cities and MAVA staff. These are both organizations that we're quite familiar with in the volunteer arena, and have a great deal of respect for them. So we threw our hat in the ring, and fortunately for us, we were accepted. Yay! We sweated it a little bit along the way. And we have some good company. As I mentioned, it's just being done in a few states, but here in the Twin Cities, we are joined by some organizations, a couple of museums, a hospital, a faith-based organization, and some housing and feeding kinds of organizations. So it'll be real interesting as we go forward to see how some things apply across the board and some things are so unique with these different organizations. But that means as we work together, we get to pick their brains at the same time we get to share with them. Here's the process that we're engaged in, and these 4 steps we've already accomplished. We found out about this initiative. We applied and we were accepted. And then our upper management and our senior leaders here participated in a service enterprise diagnostic. This was an online survey that asked a lot of questions about how we do things here, how we'd like to do things here. It covered areas in leadership support, resource allocation, tracking and evaluation, outreach and funding, partnering, tech and communication, onboarding and supervising, and training volunteers and staff. So you can see it was pretty comprehensive. Once those numbers all came in, the TCC group did their number magic and gave us a report card and gave us sort of a prescription. Here are your strengths, here are your areas for development. And we didn't do badly, but we could be doing better. So we have some guidance here on where to go from there. So a group has been formed to work on this. This group of staff, which covers a wide representation of the society, will be attending 4 training sessions, and we have some homework we have to do in between, to see how we can actually improve in the areas that I've just listed. So if you have questions or suggestions along the way, please seek one of us out. The next steps in the process, as I mentioned, are training staff. That group I just showed you will be attending 4 training modules. We've been to 1. We have 3 more, and the last one will be toward the end of April. In this process, we'll actually be working on changes that we can implement. I'd love to tell you what they are, but we haven't identified them all yet, so there's still work to do. And we also, as an organization, have access to 10 hours of individualized consulting from the experts in the field. Well, trusting that we're going to make some good changes and we're going to make some good progress, we expect to be certified. This will be a national certification, and it's good for 2 years. So we're charged with keeping up the good work. And 6 months following that certification, We will do another survey so that we can document what changes have actually been made. Now, if you have some ideas on how you'd like to tap into some of those specialized talents of that 50-plus crowd, or some concerns that you have about doing it, or you want to know what supports are available, gosh, I want to do it, I have this idea, but I don't know if I can pull it off, here are my barriers, come talk with us at the Brown Bag. We'll be talking about exactly those issues on the 19th of March. And you really can't afford to miss it if you're too busy to come. So join us. Questions from anyone at this point? You're bringing them all to the Brown Bag? That works. Thank you.
So a couple of wrap-up questions. Richard, thanks for that great presentation on historic sites. I'm sometimes surprised that some of us haven't made it to a lot of the sites. And I'm wondering, for example, if we were able to take a day, arrange for employees to sign up to get on a bus and go experience a new program someplace. Would you all be interested in that? I think it's, it's great for us to know as much as possible about all the things that we're doing. So if we can help make that happen, we'll work on that. I'd like to reflect with you a little bit on volunteers, because occasionally somebody will say to me, not sure about volunteers. I mean, don't they take away employment opportunities or threaten employment? And I'm just not sure it's worth my time and trouble. I don't want to take the time and trouble to supervise volunteers. And I'd just like to tackle that with you a little bit. Think for a minute. We've got more than 2,000 volunteers. They're giving us more than 55,000 hours of time. That's the equivalent of about 27 and a half FTEs. There's no way we would be able to go out and hire those 27 and a half FTEs and spread them out to do all the things those volunteers are doing. What those volunteers do is increase our capacity to get stuff done. And what our job is as staff is to be smart about what the things are that we do that volunteers could do so that we can increase our capacity and we can spend our staff time on the other things that we're not likely to get volunteer matches to do. And by the way, if you want to put a dollar value on those 55,000 hours, if you modestly priced those hours at what we might pay with benefits people to do those jobs, you're looking at more than $1 million worth of volunteer time. So we have a great volunteer program. What we're trying to do is take it to the next level or the next levels. And here's what we need you to think about to do that. We need you to think about, what is it in my area that might be a good match for a volunteer? What is it that we do in my department that if we had a volunteer or volunteers doing it, then we could, that would increase our capacity. We could spend our time focused on some of the other things we don't get to spend enough time on or we're not getting to do. So we need you to think about and identify those needs and those opportunities that could be met. We're pretty good at recruiting. We have a lot of people that just want to come and help, and we're pretty good at placing and onboarding. Increasingly, as boomers are retiring, many of them are not interested just in stuffing envelopes or working special events. A lot of them have a lifetime of expertise and sometimes it's not just in one position or field. And what they're looking for is a match where they get to actually contribute some of what they were educated, trained, and worked to do their whole careers at an organization like ours, which of course they love. They want to contribute and they want to be a part. So increasingly part of our challenge is going to be matching that expertise into our needs and opportunities. And I'm confident we can do that. I'm confident that we can increase the part of how we can increase our capacity to do more and to do better is by using these other resources, volunteer human resources. But it's something that we've all got to think about, and it's something that we can't feel threatened about. And it's like any other resource. Yes, there is an element of management or supervision involved, but as we all get better at that, we'll just find ourselves being grateful that we've gone this route. I've been so impressed with the volunteer program here and the contribution they make, and I hope that you will think about now how we can, and I think what we learn here is going to help, how this can help increase our capacity to serve Minnesotans. What else do you have to share or to ask about today? I dampened that down right away, didn't I? Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank our presenters today. Those were great presentations. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.